Hey everyone, please enjoy this seventh installment in my Tales of the Tales interview series on YouTube videos. And I'd like to introduce you to Big John Popico. And he is a really interesting guy, and he's really good at cleaning comic books. He's very passionate, as I am, so obviously, and I like his hairstyle, as you'll see. But anyway, please enjoy the video, and I'll see you around next time. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, go ahead.
And there we go. And I'll introduce this. All right. Hi, this is Rick Morgan, your comic book scientist, and I'm having an interview tonight, one of many I think I'll have, with a gentleman by the name of Big John, who owns Comic Underground in Largo, Florida. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, the Comic Book Underground. Yeah, that's correct.
Comic Book Underground. Now, he is an extraordinary individual. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's given me some tips and tricks on cleaning comics myself. And so he's got a bombastic personality that I think we'll all enjoy very much. And John, you want to introduce yourself and say hello? Look at that.
Just call me Batman, brother. I like the Star Wars. Like the Star Wars shirt.
Thanks. This is classic.
That's right. Like you said, this is Big John, and I've been doing this a long time, since about 1989, 1990, somewhere in there. A lot of trial and error. I was talking to Rick before. We're sort of slow on time, so we'll get right to it, I guess. But the worst comic book I ever destroyed, not completely, was don't cringe, was an Amazing Spider-Man #2. First Vulture.
That's a beautiful red cover too.
I know. I had a gentleman, this was in about 1990, 1991. I was just really starting to get into it. This was the first comic that was fanned. It was actually fanned at about 2.5 inches.
Yeah.
Which is a tremendous fan.
Now, why don't you describe what a fan is to people who don't know, John?
Go ahead.
A fan is when the pages are laid over like this, kind of like
yeah. It's just so they're pulled. You know what I mean? They're pulling away. So what I thought would be common sense was to press the book flat first. So what I did was, as I moistened it with some steam from what I used to use was a clothing iron, and I steamed the book to give it some more weight and some humidity to it. And I put it in my clam press, and I didn't put a lot of pressure on it. I actually backed it off quite a bit, and I pressed the book at about 165 degrees for about, at that time, I believe it was about 500 seconds. And when I pulled the lever up, the book was flat, beautifully flat. Problem is, I popped both staples. They popped right out of the book from, I guess, the humidity in the book. So I contacted the owner of the book and basically took a tongue thrashing for about 15, 20 minutes. But I was able to repair the book, but it wasn't worth as much as it was when he gave it to me. So it was worth about between $8,000 and $9,000. So that was my very first book that I mangled.
Did you how did you repair? Did you have to mend the paper and the staples and put new holes?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's tough. There, this is my Amazing Spider-Man #2 here.
Nice.
This guy. That's a pretty, whoa, almost dropped it. That's a pretty girl, except for this, right? I have a little stain in the back center I'll take out eventually.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's a pretty lady, you know. I love this book.
You press that, of course.
I actually have not yet pressed this book, and if you look at the cover, is actually it could use a pressing. It doesn't show up on camera very easily, but
the red on the marquee is really, really bright.
Well, I cleaned it, but I didn't press it.
Okay, you just forgot to do the back.
I didn't. So I cleaned the front, but the back didn't come up.
with this.
Okay.
This was an earlier version of my cleaner. This was a couple years ago, probably. And so I didn't clean that try. It's actually a little wrinkled if you look in there, and it kind of wrinkled up a little, and it didn't come off. And so then I said, time to take a break.
Enough. Yeah.
I'll come back and I'll reapproach. Yeah, exactly.
Walk away. Keep your hands inside the ride at all times. Yeah,
that's right. I said, you know what? And if you look in this corner, it's not going to show up, but there's a couple spots that need pressing. It's hard to see, but there's some spots here that could use a pressing. And actually, it's a little wrinkly. Actually, now that I look at it, it needs more pressing, but I should have pressed it. I cleaned it. Yeah.
Rick, do me a favor. Bring the comic forward. I want to show everybody something. Okay.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so bad with my boards. This is a perfect segue into this. I want everybody to notice in this video how much plastic is on the left and the right with no board. Now, that's a perfect example of why I cut my own boards right there. You see all that extra plastic you got on those edges?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Well, this looks like it, but this has got a clear board in the back of it.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, just to say, I hate that. Those extra, when you put them in the bags. Yeah, I hate that because when you press them together in a box, they can get a spine lift or a spine roll if they don't have that protection there.
Yeah, this guy has got a hard as a rock. There's plastic.
Oh, it's a Mylar. It's a Mylar sleeve.
It's not. It's a poly, but I have a plastic board front and back that I cut with a laser cutter. So it's sandwiched between two pieces of clear plastic.
Oh, so it's well protected.
It just looks unprotected, but there's two pieces of 1/8-inch Mylar or lucite on the front and back.
Oh, so it's well protected. Yeah.
Yeah. On both sides.
And then we were talking on the phone about how we press. I think one of the biggest things you see is when people press a square bound comic, like the annuals, stuff like that, or the giant size extra #1s.
I'm sure I have a bunch right here. Yeah, I have a stack.
Yeah, people don't understand sometimes that you can't just throw those in a press and then, exactly. And you can't press them with any kind of pressure because you'll crush those spines. Yep, so you were talking like you have aluminum pieces that you put around the book as like a template.
Yeah, it's like a frame.
Exactly. And I want to show you what I use. Okay, you see this?
Yep.
These are the remnants of my golden age boards. These are what I cut off. You know what I mean? So they're actually pretty wide. And I use these and basically make a frame around a square bound book, like a giant size X-Men #1. And that's why I keep these. And because these are the same thickness, you get these and you set your comic book in between them, you get the same thickness. These will actually press with the comic, but they'll keep their square, which will also keep the comic book square, but still allow you the room you need to press out a cover flat. So
I think that's brilliant.
That's how I do it. And I've always had great, I've never made a mistake because it's a little bit forgiving, but not forgiving enough that it crushes the spine at all. Also, if we do another one of these, I'll show you how I press the spine flat from the spine side, standing the book straight up.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that actually. So, but you know what?
This is my trusty cutting board.
Yeah, I have a similar one
with the bracket here. You can see that gives me my pre-measurement for my what I cut to a Silver Age board.
Yeah, my aluminum frame's not here. It's in my shop, and I think I'm going to get rid of it. It's 0.8 millimeters shorter than I've sanded it. 0.8 millimeters shorter than the spine, the giant size X-Men spine. This is a worthless book, but it's good for practice. Yeah. It does the same thing. I put it here so that keep it framed up. Sometimes I like to, if the glue gets warm, you can actually use it to sort of reform that a little bit, but you have pretty limited ability to reform the spine in these books.
Yeah.
But I'm going to, so acrylic has a melting point of 320 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start laser cutting and building some that, are a frame around a square book so that you can press and protect it at the same time in the proper thickness. And I'll start selling them because once I get my laser shipped over from China, I can make 100 of them at a time,
Yeah.
That way they'll be really nice.
I was actually thinking about, because I know how many of those pieces of cardboard from the backing boards, I know exactly how many I need to wrap around the whole book. Right. So what I was thinking about doing is taking them to a place like Michael's and having them cut out a block of golden age boards. And then I can set the comic book in. And that way I don't have to worry about these small pieces and placing them around. I got a whole block that I can put down and then lay the comic book in. And then it's a little easier at that point.
Brother, same story. When my laser comes in, I'll just draw it in Adobe Illustrator. I'll just cut them out for you. I'll make you 100 of them.
Well, I mean, it would be good if I could get a block of solid white cardboard.
SBS stock only comes in I think 3 millimeters as thick as I can get it. Luckily, there's a lot of paper manufacturers out where I live, and I can go to this place, Tacoma Paper, and buy a sheet. But the sheets are 4 by 8 feet.
Yeah.
And they'll roll a sheet of, I think, 3 millimeter SBS stock for me. That's how I get my stuff, and then they cut it. Yeah. It's way, I mean, I can't buy regular comic book boards in any kind of quantity these days. And so it's just hard. So it's just way cheaper too. I just go buy a big sheet and then I just cut it.
Just have it cut.
Yeah. And they'll just do it. You just drive up and there's a will call. I'm lucky I live right next to Online Metals. Most people have to ship heavy stuff and it triples the price or at least doubles the price.
You can just walk next door.
Yeah, literally, it's up the street. It's by Boeing, so I just go to Boeing, and then there's a lot of wood places. So I just drive up and I say, hey, I want a sheet. I want a 4 by 8 sheet of SBS cardstock, and they'll roll it out for me. They usually wait till the end of the week, end of the day for onesie twosie stuff like me, and then I just buy it and then I just work from that. I want to show you my book. You challenged me in the story, and I was having a hard time because it's I don't want to make a humble brag and say, oh, I never actually ruined a book or something, which is a lie. You do it all the time. But it's hard for me to come up with one. But this is probably it. This is a Thor. Now I want you to look at this book. This is a Thor 165.
It's a hymn.
Yep, it is, and that's a pretty book. I have cleaned.
Yes,
that
it is.
Up.
It's very hard to get to in a high grade because of that black cover.
Right, and I got this book, and I cleaned this puppy up pretty. Right, this looks awesome. Except this book had been cleaned before, and it had been cleaned with melamine on the back.
Oh man.
Rub that, and I really resist unless there's a physical thick schmutz on there I'm trying to get off. I don't like to use it, but it weakens the paper. And years later, that paper may become brittle.
Yeah.
And what I did, John, I'm about to show you, and you may faint and fall over, is I put it in the bag. When I was putting it in the bag, it caught the corner of the bag on the spine of it as I was putting it in, and it ran, I'll show you the back. It ran this paper up off this part right here. It cut it right for that 1/3 of an inch. And that paper just went and just peeled up in this part here. That was a rookie mistake. It's a rookie mistake. It was brittle. It was super brittle. In fact, I hadn't noticed it at the time, but separately from my cleaning, the pages were already up here. So I hadn't gotten to the back yet. You can see how dirty it is. They're split up here. And you can see that they're splitting and cracking. This comes from that melamine or peroxide. Years later, if you use peroxide in a book, this will happen to the paper, right?
Yeah.
It gets brittle. And you can even see there's a water stain pattern where someone had attempted to clean it. And so it made it very brittle. It wouldn't have happened probably just from rubbing on a poly bag if it was not brittle like that already. But man, it was so heartbreaking because I had literally spent, I'm lying if I say it was 2 weeks, but it was over a week that I'd spent cleaning the front of that book to make it pretty. And I was just getting to the back, and then that happened. And I was like, oh, Lord, let's go let it just cold press for a while.
Something about that book, though, that keep in mind that that is not a very expensive book.
Yeah.
Right. So exactly, but you might be able to replace that book inexpensively.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
It's a couple
Everybody
$100.
wants the Fantastic Four egg cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or another book. But I mean, that book there, you should be able to get it a pretty nice replacement for not a lot of money.
Yeah, I think you're right. I probably will. One of my favorite things is to take sad old Spider-Man books and try to mend. I'm going to do some spine mending. I'm looking for books that have terrible spines on them. So I can either mix some paper pulp and then patch it and then put holes and put it, or easier is mending tape. Paper pulp is, I take old comic books and put them in the blender with sodium hydroxide, and I just use that canister to like paint and roll
almost like
a roller.
You make like a paper paste.
Yeah, but I use old paper stock so it looks the same. It never looks perfect. It always looks like somebody, you can always tell. Yeah. And also it's kind of brittle right there, right? So it's good for like this part of the book, but on the spine, it's a little,
scary.
If you put a binding agent, it can like flexible, but it looks pretty hokey sometimes. But it does hold together. So mending tape is better. But man, look at that. That's a spine only a mother could love, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's really hanging on.
The ugly duckling of the collection.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have obviously better ones than this, but this one too, you can see that's barely hanging on, which is perfect for me. Yeah. I see this stuff and I get excited. I'm like, sweet, I got an awesome, horrible book.
Well, now you have something that you can practice.
Yeah. And look at this. Not only that, I got a bonus. I got whatever that says here. It says Eddie. Not Eddie Munster. Does that say Eddie Munster? No, something on the back there. It's backwards too.
Yeah, you got somebody's name on there you can get off. Now, I always felt though that if that's red ball pink, red ball pen, that's gonna. I think that red and blue is actually harder to remove than black.
I can destroy red. Actually, I can get rid of this no problemo. Here, I switched my video around so you can see the book a little better now, so you're not mirrored. The red is of the 60s color in the 60s. Okay, if this was written in the 60s, red is no problemo. Red comes off. It's the black and the blue that kill you in the 60s because they were all solvent based. Oh yeah, they don't come off for easy. But later in the 80s, it flips. The red is hard to get off, and the black is easier. You know,
see, so that's what I'm down dealing with a lot of books like that Spider-Man from the 60s. I'm dealing more with like the late 70s, early 80s books, and they're mostly done in black and blue ink and red. But I always have a hard time with the reds and the blues, not so much the black.
Yeah, they went from solvent to water-based inks sometime in the late 70s to early 80s. It's like for the environment, you know. And when they did, the whole dynamic of removing them came off. And what I find a lot, actually, after like 1979 or so, is that black ink isn't black ink. Black ink is really, 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 really dark blue ink.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And so that's what happens is you start pulling one like layer of this. It's like 3 different blues, and you start pulling one blue out, and then the other one, and the other one. It's this dynamic range of stuff, and then they have, it spreads more than it comes up sometimes, and so you have to be really careful. This red, if it's old red,
it's going to come right off.
Yeah, it'll be no problem. But the black is going to be stuck forever sometimes, you know. And then later, and this is of course, I have so many copies of this book because I'm a Mary Jane fan. I'm a huge fan of the story of Mary Jane and how they wrote her out and then back in after a while. I believe there's there's my famous panel there at the end. And then so this is a special book for me. Anytime I get it, it smells like smells like my grandma's hugs, like I say. I love these old books. They're just sitting around all over the place, and I grab them any chance I can get. I've got a problem, John. I can buy too many damn books. So,
well, you know, I think, you know, when you first start, you know, you start to get enamored. You start to get into everything really, really well. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
one of my favorite ASMs is what is it? 101.
Oh yeah, the Morbius.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite covers. You know, he's the doppelganger. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this cover because looks like Batman sort of.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It's
Batman. It looks like
it's also very hard to get in a high grade because of all that black.
it is super hard. I've got a pretty high grade one myself. These are some of my favorite like older Wonder Woman books too. I've got these, and I just love this kind of like almost like a horror book kind of look to it. You know, it's classic, and then this is the one just around it where Wonder Woman sort of took a turn from camp. You know, but look at that. That's a hard one to get. That spine is all
I mean,
black.
that cover's like 65% black.
Yeah, it's really nice, man. It's like really it's hard to get in high grade, and I've had it forever.
You know what's funny is when you take those black covers and you clean them and then you press them, that's one of my holy grails right there. First appearance of Mephisto.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite books of all time, right there.
Yeah,
I
look how
love the
pretty
cover.
that one is.
Huh?
Look how pretty this one is too, man.
Yeah, it's nice and bright red. Yeah, the black looks good. That's one of my holy grails. That's one of my favorite books. But it's amazing when you press out those black books, how the ink gets reanimated and it just pops like right. It almost gives everything else. It almost looks three-dimensional because the ink, when you put the heat to it, it just reanimates that ink and it just makes it pop right off that cover, like nobody ever touched it.
They have this stuff on that. A lot of them have this stuff called kaolite. It's like a clay on the surface from the rollers, and you redistribute that evenly to line it all up nice. And it looks good again. I'm going to run out of time here soon. I'm just waiting for someone to knock on the door, and I'll have to go. But can you tell us about your cleaning? Because you told us the other day on one of your own videos, and I'll send you a link to this one, of course, that you were going to start cleaning with the MacuClean. Have you had any good experiences, bad experiences? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I just got it 3 days ago.
So not too much experience.
4 days ago. And I've cleaned Captain America 360, first appearance of Crossbones. And I'm just now, I put about 4 hours into a Journey into Mystery 109, the infamous Magneto cover with Thor. And when I've used it got the Captain America. There was like some, I want to say like some chocolate milk resident on the back of it. It was really weird.
Isn't that crazy? I've seen that too. A lot of times I think it's Coca-Cola. I think it's
it could be, but it was a pretty big splotch of it. I'd say maybe 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches.
Oh yeah.
And luckily, the only white on the back of that comic is right in the middle. Pretty much, there's like an inside frame to the book and the outside. But I used the MacuClean. I barely went over it the first time. It pulled a lot of it up. Then I waited for about 30 minutes. And I went over it again after it had 30 minutes of airtime. Went over it again. Just let the pad do the work. No pressure at all. And then I did it for a third time, 30 minutes later, and it's completely gone.
Oh, that's awesome. This is the book, right?
Yes, that's the exact book. Now, above the T is some color loss, where it shows like white streaking.
Mm-hmm.
And there shows a little bit of color loss. But inside the O, the yellow of the O was completely full of filth. And I'm on my second pass on that. And already the white underneath where their feet are is completely white again. And now it's about to go to my second step, which is to remove the spine ticks, which, we do the same thing on that. We heat them up with some steam, add some humidity to them. And then we use the same type of iron and, put the cookie sheet or whatever on top of it so nothing sticks. And we go ahead and press all that out, get them out of there. And then I'll go to and flip it over after it dries, and I'll do the back, clean the back, do the same thing with the spine ticks. And then it'll spend about 12 hours on each side, pressing at 160. I put mine at like 166 and I do 600 seconds.
Yeah,
And
pretty similar to mine. I'm like 160, 600 seconds. So yeah, that's pretty similar.
So, and then what I'll do is I'll leave it when the timer's end, I'll shut my press down, leave it in for 12 hours. I won't lift the press at all. I'll leave it alone. And then I'll go in after 12 hours and I'll pull the book out, turn it over, reset everything, push it back down, set the timer again, 600 seconds, leave it alone for another 12 hours. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put under a cold press for about a week.
Yeah, I find that helps a lot. What I'll do is I'll preheat the bottom plate.
I do that automatically. I just forget to mention it because it's not even a thought now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
sure,
you,
sure.
I'm sure you don't even think about it. You're just like, well, I'm already set up. It's already preheated. Let's rock and roll. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I forget sometimes that I'm in an interview and I should probably explain that stuff, but it's like, you know, we've been doing this stuff for so long. You, of course, 10 years more than me, but it almost becomes like second nature or muscle memory.
It does.
You know,
it does.
You
You
like
start doing it.
trick,
Yeah.
like my staple trick, which I told you on the phone. And
Yeah, I never heard that.
it's
You
mine.
taught me that.
You know, I came up with it because I didn't want to tear the holes out. You know what I mean? So I came up with it. I perfected it. But now when I do it, it's like you cringe when you have like a Spider-Man #1 and, you know, it's worth upwards of like 45,000 and you see somebody just put it in a bag and a board like really fast. You're like cringing because it's so quick. Well, it's the same when I pull staples now. It's just like I do them so fast that people are like, "Oh my God." I mean, I told you that story about my customer where I'm rinsing his book and I thought he was going to, shoot me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I put his book in water, the whole cover, you know what I mean? And, rinsing it off with water. And I thought the guy was going to shoot me. And I said, well, you got water stains on this book. They got to come off. And I'm not going to just keep spreading it.
Right. Look at this. So here's some books I got the other day. I got a Slice Fantastic Four and
now what's with these red label? What is the red above them?
These are homemade, printed and homemade. Okay. These are called comic skins. So these are slab it yourself skins.
You were just talking about those.
Yeah, you pull these things off the outside edge, and it comes off, and you can slab it yourself without having to pay for have it slabbed. And so they print these things yourself. And so this is a Giant Size X-Men #1. These guys want me to clean this stuff, and I said, look, I get people's permission before I post a video of me putting their books online. If I say their name, if it's a generic book, it's like, okay, I won't say their name, I'll just clean it. But if some of them are highly recognizable, so I don't want, people sometimes don't always want someone knowing they own an expensive book in their house or something, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so I don't do that. But man, I tell you, look, you're going to have a heart attack and see me work on your book. You're going to pass out and don't watch me put it in a bathtub and spray it with a hose.
Oh yes,
you're gonna shit your pants, right? If you see
you're
that
gonna
stuff.
Die. You're gonna just sit there. You're gonna stroke out watching somebody fix your book.
Right, and you shouldn't do it yourself. Like, look at this guy here. So, these are ones that
you're messing with a $45,000 book,
right?
On average.
You shouldn't watch me do this, right? And
you really don't want to because you're basically going to mortgage your house to pay for your therapy bills.
Exactly. I said, well, and I got to tell you, John, you have to have huge coconut balls to some of this work. We really do. You have to have all the confidence that 10,000 hours of practice can give you, right? And it's not for everybody. And I first started selling a MacuClean. I had to make it worse and worse and worse all the time. And I still tell people, you're going to ruin some books. In fact, you're going to ruin most books until you get good at this. Yeah. And you have to be dedicated. Do not think you're going to come up with your Spider-Man 129 or your X-Men. X-Men also 129, the Kitty Pryde, actually, ironically, I think.
Yeah.
94 or something. You're going to come up and say, well, I'm just going to rub this thing with his cleaner and I'm just going to go make my $500. You are not. You are not. It is for the dedicated, right?
Yeah, forget about that. I think I've rubbed out a 94 X-Men, so where I rubbed it too hard and it, took a little bit of the ink off, you know what I mean? So, but luckily it was already like a 2.0 anyway. So it wasn't like an expensive book, and that was probably 15, 18, 20 years ago that when I first worked on that. But even then that book wasn't as high as it is now.
Yeah. If it's a 4.0, if it's a VG or below, you're really not going anywhere by cleaning it, because
no, it's a practice book basically.
Yeah. It might get better and you might get to VG plus, you're sure as hell not getting to like fine minus. So
no,
you can go up a little, but if you take a lot of the ink off, you're still not going to go south. Right.
Well, I got one question for you, Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. This is opposite of the first question, which was scary enough.
Yeah.
What is the best grade from your original grade after your work? And if you remember the book.
Well, that's a good question.
Let's say you had a 6.0 come in, you unslabbed it, right? And you cleaned it and you pressed it and it came back, let's say a 7.5. That's what I mean by the question.
So I don't have an official tally of those always, because a lot of...
No, I meant just one that you can pick out that you got back and it came back really, really good.
Got it. Well,
that's
a tick number one. I can tell you that one for a fact, because I had a tick number one that had there's a picture of it on Instagram somewhere too that I have, that I know a guy has, and that sucker was like a 3. I think it was good, very good, like a 3.0, because it had a huge coffee stain on the, and I'll try to find a picture, because that is a white cover.
Okay? Yes, it is.
And I'll show people here in
I think I've seen it.
It has been posted by someone else online, but not me.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can find it online. And that book came back a 9.6. And I about pooped myself,
Wow.
Yeah, I was shocked. And it looks, in fact, I think I can get 9.8 out of it, because it is almost there. Because I didn't have any hope for it. It was, I'm trying to find a picture of it. Tick number one. I'm looking at here. I'll share my screen so you can see what I'm doing here.
Yeah, no worries.
Here, sorry. I sometimes forget that everybody can see it. I'm trying to find a picture of it, and it's this one. It looks almost like this, but mine says 9.6. Otherwise, it's like this. And the book I had a huge coffee stain, or like a coffee cup, like a round coffee cup, and there were spine ticks all down the side here. And it was pretty much a lost cause. And and it came back a 9.6. I about fell over. Wow. I was like, what in the hell? I did not expect that at all, because it was in miserable condition, but it is bright. But I will tell you, I spent weeks on that book. It was not like a one day, onesie, twosie thing. It was a real bad. Yeah, it was a hard one. 9.6.
Now mine is not that good. Mine crushes mine. I don't even know if I want to tell this story now. It might be embarrassing, but I had I believe it was another ASM number 2.
Jeez, man.
I have bad luck with that one. But this one actually brought me good luck. I've only done like 5 of those since I've been doing this. The first one, I kind of screwed it up with the staples, but everyone after that, I've done pretty well. But this one, it was like the 3rd or 4th one I've ever done. And I got it. It was a 4.0. And when the guy brought it in, I looked at it and I said, well, I mean, what do you want done? He said, I think it could come back better. And I look at it, a quick look at it. And I said, I think it can too. I said, I can't guarantee you it will, but I believe it will. He said, well, you want me to break it out of the slab and cut it out and all that? And he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I did it. It took about 10 days and I cleaned it. I mean, I went all out, cleaned the pages, cleaned the inside of the cover, the outside of the cover, got all the spine ticks off, and we resubmitted it and it came back a 7.5.
That's pretty good. I mean,
from a 4.0, but that red, that's why I was pointing out on yours, the red will look so bright that when I resubmitted that ASM #2, that red was that bright, if not brighter. I mean, it like popped off the book. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
now that's only 3.5 grades higher, but the price difference between a 3.0, 3.5 to a 7.5 is tremendous.
In that book, especially. I'm making myself sound better than I am saying I got back in 9.6 because that book is majorly white, right?
Yes.
Which I didn't have to fight a lot of colors. I had a lot of leeway. So I don't want to make it sound like I was better than I am at that. But I am proud of that one because that sucker came back super. I was shocked.
I mean, Rick, it's still a white cover and it's a coffee stain. You know what I mean? So to get something like that, that's like somebody just, taking their thumb, dipping it in, fingerprint ink and putting it right on that cover. And then you getting it removed and then sending it in and it comes back a 9.6. I mean, come on, dude, you can't take anything away from the skill it takes to remove something like that.
Yeah, that's true. And that was hard won because we're talking, it looked like it was done. I mean, I'll say 80% of that book was clean in 20% of the time. Right?
Yes.
And so that took me it was like in 2 days, it was like mostly gone and you could just tell at an angle.
Yeah.
I put days and days and days into that with no apparent progress until I eventually coached those little bitty coffee molecules out of the paper. Actually, in this case, and this is one of my other secrets I'll share with the world now, is an ultrasonic cleaner. Only it's not ultrasonic, it's megasonic. Use megasonics because ultrasonic sometimes could tear the paper apart. And so
because it vibrates too much.
Yeah, I use megasonic, which is it's a bigger vibrator, bigger transducer, and that will shake that out of there. And so and that's the trick. And so the problem is you don't want to go too deep with the solution over the top of it because the paper will like bounce all over. So you pour it in a solution so that it's just a sliver above the height of the cover after you take the cover off the book. And then it just like bounces and you can see an exact shape of that coffee ring literally float up off the book.
Wow.
It just floats off and you can only go about 10 or 15 seconds and then you got to stop and dry and press and do it all over again once it's dry because you've only got a few second gap before it pushes all the ink off. And then you got to do everything the next day and do it again. A little ring of it, coffee comes out. It's a lot of work. It is nowhere near worth what the price of that book was. I just did it as a favor for a friend and he was going to sell it, but he saw it and he's like, "Wow, I can't sell this book. It's so beautiful now." So that was one of my better success stories, and I was pretty happy with that. I want to show you a couple things here, like because some people ask me about stuff in my room. So I have a Beatles poster here that's actually signed by the Beatles.
Wow!
But it's on the back, which is the weirdest possible place, right? It's like you almost want to turn it around, right? It's signed on the back and the bottom. I'm like, why did they sign the back? I don't know.
Or fold it into an accordion, where you fold it up and then fold it back so that the back shows on the poster.
Right. It shows, I wanted to show it to you because of the different mentalities. Like you were saying, you don't want a book signed on the cover. I think the same thing was going on here. This was actually from this performance, the London Palladium, and a guy I used to work with back in the late 80s knew I liked the Beatles and he gave me this poster for free because he didn't even want it. He just had it. He left it he was in London in that time. And so he didn't see the Beatles sign it. So I can't verify it, but he bought it at the concert. It was like more money than the unsigned one, right? He bought it because he wanted. It's a souvenir. So, and apparently they'd signed a huge pile, so it's not rare. But then that is this is my Spider-Man poster of the movie. I'll show you that up here. So this is of the first Spider-Man movie, up right. And in Spider-Man's eye, you can see the Twin Towers.
That poster's been removed.
It has. I won this poster in a contest on the radio before the movie came out. They gave it to me and like a Spider-Man, actually a friend of mine won, not me, but he gave it to me. He went to see Planet of the Apes that year, and there was a Spider-Man trivia contest thing, and he won that. And he gave me this movie poster before the movie came out, and it has the Twin Towers reflected in his eye. This is an original movie poster. It's printed in reverse on the back of it, so it's like double thickness. And a Glycee print that goes at the theater, and I have it, and I had it since before 9/11. So that's a special thing for me too.
Well, the story behind that poster is one of the scenes that was supposed to be in that movie was that he was supposed to spread a web from one tower to the other and catch a helicopter.
Yeah.
I think that was the
you can see it
story.
somewhere. Yeah.
I think that was the story, and they cut all that out. Same with that gangster with Josh Brolin, where they cut out the shooting in the movie theater because of the real life shooting that happened. So, unfortunately, sometimes real life dictates what happens in Hollywood, and but
Yeah.
I just do my thing, brother. I don't, I keep to myself, I do my thing. I got your message earlier that the wife, I guess, hooked a brother up with some books, today.
Yep. She said she put him in the mail. I haven't verified. I haven't actually seen her since I've been home. I had a shooting lesson earlier today, as I just got home and ran in for this. And,
I was just hoping you could tell me one book that was in the box. That way, I can get the creative juices flowing.
There's a bunch of Eternals in there.
Newer,
older from the
Bronze Age
70s.
stuff.
Yeah, and there's I do know there's some older Captain America in there. Some I don't know, actually. It's a bunch from my like Silver and Bronze Age box. I told her to grab a wad and put them in. There's a stack about that high. I said, just grab some and put them in there. Then she said, okay, I'll get him mailed out today. She said, put his name on the box. And she said she'd look up your address and send them out, because she handles a lot of that for me, since my days start literally at 4:00 in the morning, and I usually don't go until like 6 or so.
So do you think these are just cleanings and pressings?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything of real value in there. There are things I was going to clean and press just for fun,
but you just don't have time.
Yeah, I'm never going to get it. I'm looking at a pile right here. There's probably, you see my other pictures of piles, like just the stuff that's made it home, and this isn't even my lab. It's probably around. You saw
my text to you the other day when I'm saying, now I'm asking for books, to clean and do all that. And I said, well, in about 3 or 4 months, I probably will be like you. I'll be overwhelmed, and I'll regret asking for work. You know what I mean?
Yes, so you will. And I've had to shut mine off because like I said, and I'll show this for the world too to see, is that I do have comiccleaners.com is going to be starting. I don't know when, because I'm up in legal headache land for all the things that have these limited liability companies and articles of incorporation and rent and training and all that stuff is takes longer than it should, or that you think it should. And I'm a person who likes to have all his ducks in a row. I don't want to start the valve flowing and then have to shut it off and say, oh man, I'm not ready because I have this.
I'm the same way. Yeah. Once I go, I don't want to stop until the completion.
Right.
So I'm basically the same type of person. I'm not a procrastinist. I don't like to start something, stop, and then go back to it later. I like to go from start to finish, and that's it. But listen, I'm gonna step up 1 second. My book just reached its time to come out. I'd like to show you this on camera. This Captain America.
Yeah. This is great. I can't wait to see this. Great.
So I'm pulling it out of the press now, removing my metal.
Man, I feel like we're watching a contest show on TV.
All right. Luckily for you, I washed my hands.
Wow. That's a pretty book.
This thing was filthy, and it had 18 spine ticks. So I don't know if you could see the spine.
Can you put the light? Can you put the shininess of the light on the spine so we can see?
Yeah, hold on. I don't know.
Tilt it the spine towards us. There you go. I'm getting closer, like it's going to help.
Yeah, but there was approximately 18 spine ticks on there.
Wow, nice job, John.
On the back, it's kind of hard to move, but there's absolutely none. As I'm looking at it right, there's none. It's perfectly clean. But on the back here, you can see there's a slight tape pull here in the center.
Oh, that sucks. I hate that.
You can't do anything about that, of course, unless I'm going to color touch it, which I'm not going to. but all across the bottom of this book was basically a line that was like pressed into the book. And then right here were two round, about the size of a pencil eraser, indentations in that book. So I believe that all of that stuff is now, I know the indentations are gone. They should be right underneath that black middle section.
Yeah. Oh, yep. They're gone. I love it when the light gets on there. I can tell.
And then the line that went all the way across the bottom from spine to open, it's gone. And it looked like a subscription crease. But it didn't.
You're lucky if it is, because they don't count off for those, right? But man, that looks really pretty. Well, they don't count off for subscription creases below a certain grade, right?
But I mean, what I'm saying is it looked like a subscription crease, but it did not have, the color break.
That's also the wrong way for subscription.
Exactly.
Crease, right?
If for those of you who don't know what a subscription crease is, back in the day when your postal worker delivered your comic books, when you had subscriptions, they would roll it in half or fold it in half and stick it in your mailbox. And over time, from opening it back up, it would lose color from the acid. So for those of you, I mean, if you're watching this video, you pretty much know what a subscription crease is. But I find that a lot of people who are just tuning in and watching my videos, they don't know.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to tell, right? A little bit. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to go soon, but I want to take this opportunity to show you, John, and maybe the world out there in general. I think many people have asked me to go over some of my comic books with people a little bit, but I'll just go through. Wow, there's one more pretty one actually. I'll go through.
Rick, did you notice too on the back of this Captain America? I don't know if you noticed, but remember I talked about the chocolate milk residue.
Yes.
Okay, right there. That's where it was, right where my finger is. And there's the light. You could see that all that, your word, schmutz, all of it's gone.
Yeah,
now,
that's awesome.
Book, to make this book look like this, now I would consider this probably a 9.4, 9.6. It has no spine ticks on it, white pages. But because I'm so strict, to me, it would never be a 9.8, but I'm venturing it's probably what it would be, a 9.8. I would grade it a 9.4, 9.6. It's absolutely beautiful now, but that book took me approximately 15 hours, and that grade, it's only it's like a $45 to $60 book in that grade.
Yeah, that's the same thing happens to me all the time. I clean books for people, and I say, I do this work. It takes me a week. I may charge them like $35 or $40, right? And I'm a person who makes probably around, maybe like $90 an hour at my regular job, So it's like it's a labor of love, right?
Oh yeah.
So, I'm going to go through some of these books real quick.
I love Crossbones. So I was like, well, the hell with it. I'm just going to go ahead and pimp this book straight out. And what's really funny is I got 3 more coming. Because the same book, because I have customers who are looking for, like, I just got a Rye number 0, even though it's plummeted. But I have a customer that he's bleeding. That's his holy grail, is Bloodshot. The first appearance of Bloodshot. You know what I mean? And so I finally got him one. So I mean, it's just like, you can't help what people want, and I want to make those people happy. But before I give it to him, I'm going to clean it and press it, even though it's really plummeted, after the movie, of course. But, I do what you do, man. I want to make people happy, and I generally care. I give a crap, or if not, I wouldn't be doing it.
Sure. You have to love it and have a passion, right? Let me show you some of these before I go. There's a number 1, right?
Yeah,
and by the way, I have every one of them, right? Of course. 2.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That's old news.
Yeah, of course. There's 3. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And then I have 4, and then
I'll just go through these. Book.
People ask me about these all the time. Oh, these are all signed by Stan Lee that say that on the back.
Oh, no.
And then that one.
I love that cover.
And that one.
I like that cover.
And then this guy. This one I have a name on it. I should get off of there probably.
Yes.
And then I have like That guy.
I love Electro, even though he turned into a she.
Yeah, it's She Electro now.
Yeah,
Right?
don't ask me why they did that.
Electrina. Whatever they want to call her. And then that, and then
I love those old Doc Ock covers. That Mysterio book, that's one of my holy grails, and the first Craven.
Yeah, that's
I
coming
love
up.
those two books.
But there's this little cutie right here.
Now, see, I've had that book several times, but the highest I've ever had it is like a 6.0.
Yeah, I don't know what this one is, but it's up there. You know,
I love
and
that cover. That cover's
then
sick.
I got this guy here too.
That's out of the early ASM villains. That's my holy grail right there. That and 42. The was it 41? First Rhino.
Yeah, I just had two of those, and Mary Jane, the next one.
Yeah, you told me that horror story. Let's not get into that. Yeah, let's not get into that. Yeah, well, look, I got my own horror stories on that. We'll talk about that on another time.
Yeah, I don't want to complain about grading companies online without them here to defend themselves, you know. But let's just say people have had mixed reviews. I'll just say that, right? Yeah. Look, I gotta start Loki for my kids. Want me to start Loki on Apple TV for them? They have some friends over, so I'm gonna have to go. They're all Loki. I hear them in there chanting for me.
Okay.
And I'm sure it's late in your.
Oh, I'm fine, brother. Listen, I'm gonna send you a link. I mean, not a link. I'm gonna send you a text when we get off of here, and I want you to send the link to the video to a different email address.
Okay.
So I can post it on my YouTube channel.
Got it.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Because I have a YouTube channel, but I have two different emails associated with that. If you send it to this email, I won't be able to do it.
Got it. I'll hook you up. It takes a while to process, but I'll get you that link.
All right, brother. Well, listen, I don't know how your wife's going to ship those books out, but I hope to get them soon. And I'll keep you up to date on that. And one hell of an interview, dude. And you're one hell of a guy. And
thanks, brother.
I know we're going to get some
right
stuff
back at
done.
you. We're going to help the world.
Man. As usual, this is Big John, and I'm out.
Later, Gators. Bye-bye.